Hi, Steve here, and here to report that the energetics of the world have changed somewhat from my experience. So um, you may or may not have noticed some change. And if you have noticed some change and you felt like making a comment on what you noticed, feel free to do so down below. I'm going to describe a little bit of some of the process of change that I experienced um, and how what might have happened, what might have caused these things to take place. I've often wondered about the world that I experience being based on my projection of my energetics onto the world. Now I know that this is true when I'm in what I would call a bad mood and or feeling, let's say, feeling irritated, and then I notice how much irritates me, how certain sounds irritate me, how um, certain conversations irritate me, whatever. I'm feeling irritation and I'm finding it. I'm finding what I'm feeling. And so um, I don't feel like it's a good idea to um, to be judgmental of ourselves or others for that matter. Although there has been this tendency to judge another person. They're too loud, they're too happy, um, they're oblivious, whatever judgments have come up in your head about others or have come up in your head about yourself. The kind of like the repeated statements you might have heard from childhood. Maybe lazy, or a real old term, good for nothing. Now, if that term was used in relationship to you, that might really go in deep. And there may be a feeling inside oneself that I'm really good for nothing. And so our beliefs are based on stories that we tell. Our beliefs are based on unresolved events that still have emotional content for which we make up stories. So the stories and the beliefs go hand in hand. So when we get triggered, which means that unexpectedly emotions arise to the surface and we feel them, and we feel like the person who said or did or moved or smiled or whatever the other person did that caused our triggering, we may, from habit, have lashed out at that person. And that person may develop a perception of us from having done that. Now, obviously, I've done these things, and the people have a perception of me based on those things. And people who have continued to spend time with me over time have seen that many things have changed in terms of my beliefs and in terms of my beliefs, in terms of my behaviors, and in terms of my boundaries. So my night school teacher named these the three B's, I think in 2020, in the summer of 2020, as they're beginning to help me to understand how to release the energy of beliefs. I'm going to describe it as fairly simple. When you're triggered, when you feel these unexpected emotions, strong emotions come to the surface, if you don't start to look around for who's to blame for them, and look for what weapon you can throw at them or whatever, if you just go, okay, and I do this is exactly what I do. So here's what I do, and it works pretty well, especially over time when it becomes somewhat of a behavior. I go, oh, I'm triggered. I'm feeling strong emotions. What is the story I notice coming up? What am I hearing myself tell myself? Am I saying this person doesn't care? This person's mean? Whatever. I mean, you can come up with all your own stories. Those are your stories. They may go into detail. You know, nobody has ever really loved me. And I thought this person loved me, but here's proof that they don't love me, because one thing they did caused a lot of emotions, and they wouldn't do that to someone they loved. So we're caught in these, catch-22 situations, because if we have chosen to live by the 4 agreements, and best of luck, I've committed to this for many years. I'd say 30-ish or more years, committed to being impeccable with my words, do my best, don't assume, and don't take it personally. Now, of those 4 agreements, the don't take it personally one has been the greatest challenge for me. And I've talked to a few people who it's been the greatest challenge for them. So not to take it personally when one is triggered emotionally, maybe strongly triggered emotionally, and you just want to go whatever you go into personally. Like, see, that proves to me that nobody really cares about me. And what that could prove to you is that you don't care about yourself deeply enough. Now, many of the naysayers are going to say, that's what all the narcissists say, that nobody cares about them enough and they don't care about themselves enough. And it's probably true. So if you don't allow yourself to care about yourself enough, it's quite possibly, let's just load on the shame and guilt and condemnation and all the stuff, just load it on. It may mean that you're a narcissist. Now, someone texted me the other day and they put NPD. And I wrote back and I said, I'm sorry, but I don't know what that means. And they wrote back and said, narcissist personality disorder. So narcissism, I don't know. Besides my own experience of it, and besides people at times having identified me as a narcissist, and one begins to understand that there are certain behaviors that people who are into categorizing others may categorize as narcissistic behaviors. There's no defense here. You could say, if you wanted to say as a narcissist, I don't really care, which is something I think many narcissists really feel. The problem with that is they can't allow themselves to care about how others think of them, because they have so much unexpressed emotion inside themselves from their early traumas. Now, we may think like narcissists, they don't feel things. They only do what works best for them. And really, they're survivors. You can like them, you can not like them, you can have any feelings you want, you can identify them as NPD or identify them as narcissists or identify them as however you want to. You can go ahead and identify everybody in the world with some category. Or you can feel safe in yourself. And even though your kitty's right outside your door, making these like, I want to come in, I love you so much sounds, you can possibly just not respond to it. So we'll see how well I do. If all of a sudden the video goes off, we'll know that she won the vibrational war of controlling my consciousness. And it's ongoing. It's a cat. And they're gods from Egypt. Okay, so we can maybe stop identifying people by labels, thereby changing that behavior, thereby going to a place where we're willing to look at the labels that we've given to ourselves. And I'm just not gonna go into it. Label this, label that, The whole world seems to want everything to be categorized so they can place you in a place, oh, they're bipolar. And the fact that you may understand what the word bipolar means, you may understand all the medications that can be taken so you won't be so bipolar. And then you can talk about what it is to be bipolar, and all of that. Or we can begin to accept ourselves. And the easiest way, as far as I'm concerned, to accept ourselves is to spend more time in our deep self. Because obviously the deep self accepts the world as it is. Because if it didn't accept the world as it is, it wouldn't be so calm and it wouldn't be in such a deep state of peace. So the more, if you want to change your identity, you can say, well, in the past, I may have perceived myself as an addictive personality. In the past, I may have perceived myself as a narcissist. As in the past, I may have perceived myself as a person who needed to take some anger management courses. And currently, I'm beginning to identify myself as my deep self. I'm beginning to acknowledge that there's an aspect of me inside at the core of myself who is peaceful and who is calm. And I don't have to be meditating to experience that part of myself. Maybe it is going to become a very large part of yourself. But I don't have to meditate. I don't have to have my eyes closed, although I can experience it when my eyes are closed. And I can experience their demonstration. And I can experience it when my eyes are open. And I can experience it when someone's talking at me, or talking to me, or speaking with me. I can identify myself as my deep self and notice that as my deep self, I'm in a deep state of peace and calm. And in the video that I made yesterday, the longer video, I can't remember the name of it. I need to start taking my lion's mane mushrooms again. I kind of ran out and stopped taking them, and I was noticing how much better my memory was when I was taking my combination memory neurological repair mushrooms. There's about 6 of them, and there's the kitty, and I'm still going to continue talking to myself on some levels because I'm just talking to the computer and seeing myself, but I'm actually talking out through this computer as it goes out into the world of YouTube, and other people come in and listen and may find these words helpful. I'm going to say one thing that I started this YouTube channel. My stepdaughter set it up for me in mid-December, and I began making videos, and now I think I've made over 60 videos about health and healing, consciousness, change, beliefs, behaviors, and boundaries, and lots of the deep self, lots of things that are interesting to me. That's what I speak about, the things that are really interesting to me. And I'm, for one, certain that I'm the #1 watcher of these videos because I was asked to do these videos by my guides. They asked me a number of years ago to set up a channel where I could make these videos and I could let people know what I was working with because they were suggesting that I work with these things. But I had a tremendous amount of fear and apprehension about how difficult it was going to be to make these videos and get a YouTube account and blah, blah, blah. So anyway, it didn't happen for 3.5 years. And then finally, my stepdaughter stepped in, and I videotaped her going through all the stages of setting up the YouTube channel and setting up the recording equipment. And I videotaped it so I could go back and watch it later and not have to remember it, especially if I hadn't been taking my mushroom mixture, which I'm going back to. Just remind me that I need to go back to my mushroom because I'm watching my own videos and realizing like I'm looking for some word. Oh yeah, crown chakra. How could I possibly forget crown chakra? But I noticed I did. Okay, so that's kind of like, it's kind of like the Kundalini energy as it moves up and down the spine. And I think it's actually spiraling is what I've felt. Is there's this spiraling action to the Kundalini energy moving up and down the spine, and the opening of the energetics of the crown. And as that Kundalini energy goes up and down, up and down, up and down, it actually begins pouring out as it gets more and more full, and it pours out and goes in all directions out of us. And I had an experience, I think that I spoke about after a healing session yesterday, where I was actually feeling this peace and this calm pulsating, I felt, from my heart through my blood and my blood vessels, and I was feeling that pulse in my hands, and I was feeling that it was coming, but it wasn't going further than that. And then I imagined how far out it might go, and it went whoosh, and just went out and didn't come back. I'm sure at some point it may come back, but it doesn't matter. If I am generating through the center of myself, if I am experiencing this deep peace and this feeling of calm, and that deep peace begins to pulse through my entire body, through my circulatory system from my heart, through my digestive system, through my respiratory system, through my acupuncture meridian system, through my lymphatic vessels and my spleen and my lymphatic system, through my elimination systems, through all my systems, they just went blank, and I had to touch it with my finger and make it come back on so I could see it, that it was still recording, and it appears to be. So when that peace and calm is pulsating through your all your systems, the one I was most aware of, it felt like my circulatory system. And when that went poof and just went out into the universe in all directions, and I thought, this is the place for me to live from. My guides have been suggesting this for a long time, that I let go of all my ideas about and learn from my experiences and set up my experiences as they propose me to set them up, set up my experiences, have those experiences, and then I can speak from experience. So oftentimes I won't talk about something until I feel like I know it. I know what I'm talking about because I know the experience I've had from it. And people may have different experiences, and that'll be what they know, is they'll know their experience. But when we feel like we know something because we understand it with our mind, that's when we're kind of lost. Because understanding with the mind is not knowing it, that's being able to repeat it. That's preparing yourself for the test you're going to take. But if you haven't had the experience of it, you're probably going to fail the test anyway. So even if you can remember the answer, they're like, I'm sorry, but you, like my guide said to me, I asked them. So I've gone to dream school at night for, I don't know, 14 years, 12 years, 14 years. Yeah, 12 to 14 years. I've gone to dream school at night. And I asked my teachers in dream school, why have you gone over the same subject night after night after night? And they replied, because you just don't get it. And the only way we can maybe help you to get it is by repeating it until you actually do what we suggest and get it, at which point we can quit suggesting it to you because you've already got it. And then we can move on. So if you would just be willing to experience what we're suggesting you experience, figure out what your experience is from that, then you'll understand how it works. But if you think in my head, oh, I get it. All I have to do is imagine the future I want and it'll appear. I watched The Secret or whatever, and all you got to do is just think about it, talk about it, and you'll manifest it. And it's like, yeah, maybe it works for them. Maybe they had a stronger belief system, or maybe they had the experience of doing that. And because they had the experience of doing that, they can tell you that's all you need to do. And that may be all you need to do. But from my experience, one of the things I've had to do is let go of the majority of my beliefs. Because my beliefs, as Seth has said, are like a fence around my experiences. So we typically won't go outside the fence of our experience because that is our protection. Our beliefs are our protection for ourselves. So outside of that might be scary. And if we take down the boards of our beliefs, I like this image I'm getting. So as we take down the boards of our beliefs, then we realize there is maybe even an opening. We just make an opening. There's just an opening in our beliefs for us to go outside. We maybe can stay close to the fence for a while. And then when we're outside, we say, oh, it's so much nicer out here. Maybe I can take off more of these boards. And eventually we can dismantle all the boards of the fences of our belief. And what will we have then? We'll have our experiences. And you'll have your experiences, I'll have my experiences, and maybe we can compare notes on what our experiences are. And that feels like enough for this for now. Thanks for listening. Thanks for letting me actually take these thoughts and experiences from here and move them out here, move them out in the universe. And if you do any of these little things I suggest and they work well for you in some ways or don't work well, it's confusing to me when I think I'm moving one hand and the other one's moving. It's like I'm a puppet, you know. Anyway, if you find things that work well for you, even if they're not things that I said or things you misheard I said, but you did them and they worked really well, please just make a comment. Like, I did this thing that you suggested and it worked really well. Or I had this experience. Or I went into my deep self. And what a number of people have told me is that, well, I did the, kind of meditation you did when I went into my deep self, I went to sleep. And like, so do I. So I've watched this particular video. I think I made it yesterday. I think I've watched it 4 times now. And every time I got a little bit more from it. And I feel like watching the videos is helping me ground the experience of the deep self, of the deep state of self. So some people have concerns about the deep state. I'd say let go of your concerns about this deep state, because you actually want to go into the deep state. You want to be part of the deep state. And that's how the deep state will change. When you're in your peace and calm, and that's radiating out from you into the world, it has changed my world. And I'm going to suggest it might change yours. And with that, I'll say, now must go, and I'll let my cat in the room, and you have a wonderful day if you'd like to.